Hey y'all, thanks for tuning back into Chickanic. I hope everybody's having a great week. I have been missing in action. Oh yeah, I have been sick, man. My kid brought home the plague from school, which he does about once a year. I usually get it, my once a year sickness, and it put me down, 103 fever, chills, sweats. I'm just getting to where I feel semi-normal. Taste buds gone. I can't taste anything, but getting back to work. The guys have pretty much caught up on everything in the repair shop. It's in the middle of December, super slow right now. It's almost Christmas time. We just don't have that many units coming in. So since I don't have any customer stuff to work on, I thought I'd come back out to my trash to treasure pile. As y'all know, some of y'all cringe every time you see it. I have it covered up. I mean, this stuff is sitting out here because I wasn't going to buy a $5,000 to $10,000 building to essentially store a bunch of trash. But as you've seen in my earlier videos, I have tons of good stuff out here, thousands of dollars of good parts that I can use if I need it. Because in this kind of business, this stuff is gold. Now, when we closed down our shop and brought all this here and just pretty much threw it in a pile, there was stuff that was not worth fixing, that was just for parts. There was stuff that was worth fixing, stuff that customers just didn't want to put the money into. But I'm going to check out these boxes right here. I don't know what's in them, okay? They've been sitting here for a year, all right? So, and I don't know how long they were sitting before that. So let's look inside and see if there's anything worth repairing. All right, I got everything moved out of the way so I can get to it. We'll take a quick glance. No snakes, I don't think. Everybody's always worried about the snakes. Let's see what we got here. We got a Poulan. You know I like my Poulans. Wonder if it's burned up. Okay guys, like I said, I have no idea on whether I just kept this one because it has such great parts or what. The smell of it is rank though, so it has been sitting a long time. So let's look and see if it has any potential. Now, one thing about the Poulan, however you want to say it, chainsaws, is that I end up with a lot of them because I would give customers estimates, and I'm not expensive, but to repair it after it's been sitting for a year or so, or 2 years, or whenever they decide to use it again, would sometimes be more than they want to spend, which I only charge $40 labor, but when you got a carburetor kit for 15 bucks, plug, air filter, fuel filter, primer bulb, ends up being about $80 to repair on a $120 something, $140 something saw. So customers would leave these with me all the time. So let's get this top off and see what she looks like inside. Yeah, this thing looks really unused. Well, spark plug doesn't look burned up. Oh boys. You know, if I got a good cylinder and piston, I'm gonna make it run. This is gonna run. Now, first thing I gotta do is get rid of this rank gas because it's overwhelming already, okay? Definitely always put a rag over your gas cap before you go to taking it off because it will spray that disgusting stuff all over you. All right. Woo! Wish I had smell-o-vision just so y'all could partake in how gross this is. This stuff is thick. All right, I'm gonna bring out my HD endoscope by Depth Tech here. Take a look inside. Oh yeah, that's sweet. We got a little varnish, but nothing that's not gonna come off with a quickness once we get her going again. Looks good. Now, when I dump the fuel filter of course fell out. Fuel lines are rotten. Tank needs to be cleaned. The primer bulb is actually still in one piece. So I'm pretty excited. I'm thinking a fuel filter, fuel lines, maybe a carburetor kit and a plug, and I'm gonna get this all going again. Now, one thing that never fails when I do a video on a Poulan chainsaw is the comments. I'm going to get somebody out there saying, why are you even wasting your time? Well, that's because they're worth it. I mean, why should it end up in the landfill when they're so easy to fix? A lot of homeowners either don't have the money to afford an expensive chainsaw, or they might only have a couple limbs to cut every once in a while. But the majority of people, when they get those couple limbs cut that they need to, they'll end up letting them sit. Then, of course, it won't start whenever they need to use it again. They take it to the repair shop, and it's not worth putting in $75-$80 to a chainsaw whenever you can buy another one for another $120-$130. But if you could fix it yourself, that's how you save some time, money, and frustration. Now, I already made a video of how fast could I fix a Poulan where I really went into detail on exactly how to fix one of these. I will leave a link in right above or in the description box below if you want to check that one out. But they are super simple to fix, guys. If I can do it, you can do it. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and keep tearing stuff apart here as I show you, because I know this thing needs fuel lines, and to get to the fuel lines, we have to remove the carburetor. Only thing holding it on is that broken rotten line. Yeah, it's just hard as a rock. So the nipple on the primer bulb that's exposed, that's the one that is the purge from the carburetor. And then the one that goes to the long nipple on the purge bulb that goes to the tank, that's your return. Now I am replacing that too, but I can't just pull it up because it's got this little adapter inside the tank that we have to remove. When you look inside the tank, you can see that little fuel line. It's a connector, really, and like where you would connect two fuel lines together. And you find them a lot in these Poulans, I mean, in their trimmers and in their chainsaws. I think it's so the fuel line doesn't come back out, but it's not going to. So a lot of people ask, how do you get it back in there? You just don't. So take my long needle nose here. Get her hold over. Pull it on out. Once you got it out, get rid of the rest of this nasty line. Now you're going to want to press the primer bulb a bunch if it's still intact. If you're just cracked, you're going to want to go ahead and change it out. But these can be deceiving. You'll go and put everything back together. It'll still be in one piece, and you'll put some fuel into it. The first time you prime it, the top will crack. So make sure you give it some good punches. Mine still feels pretty pliable, so I'm going with it. Now, these do have two different size fuel lines. I call them my 6616 and 6617, but those are actually just the part numbers for the 50-foot rolls that I get from Rotary. The 6616 is an inside diameter of 0.080, and the outside diameter is 0.140. And if you want to see metric, there you go, you know, metric, we're in America. But also the 6617 that I use is 3/32 inside diameter and 3/16 outside diameter. These are pretty standard sizes. Now, this is the line that goes to the fuel filter from the carburetor into the tank, and then you're going to need some more to go to lay in the bottom of your tank with your fuel filter on it. And even though it looks the same size as this one, it is not. This is my 6616. The 6617, you have the line going to your tank as your return, and then you have one coming a piece, just a small one going from your carburetor to your purge bulb, primer bulb, whatever you want to call it. So for the line going from the carburetor to the purge bulb, I'm going to cut about 3 inches, and I can just cut that one, stubbed it flat. Now for the one going into the tank, I am going to want to cut the end at a curve so I can get it into the tank. I'm just cutting straight. Oh, my scissors are dull. Straight down the center of this. That way I can get my needle nose pliers into the tank, pull on it a little bit, snug it in that hole. So other than that, because that piece isn't going to matter, we have a little bit that's stubbed into the tank, and then we need it to go back to the primer bulb. So that's about 7 inches. The other side can just be flat. Now for the smaller line, and I know when y'all see this, you're not going to believe that it's the same line, but it is. This is just swollen. It's got about 4 inches that goes from the carburetor to the tank, and then from that you're going to have it just sit in the bottom of your tank. So I'm going to go ahead and what do we got here? Do about 9 to 10 inches. That's good. Now we are going to want to cut this at a slant, just like the other one, because we're going to get it through that hole, and then we're going to pull it with our needle nose. So I'm going to cut a little bit extra just so I can cut it down the center. A lot of people have a bunch of different ways of doing this. This is just the easiest way I have found. It works every time. Just like that. Cut it at a slant. It might be hard to see. There is a hole way down here in the back corner that I'm going to put my return line in. Just slide that whole section that I cut down into the hole, flip it over on its side, grab her with my pliers, and snug her in a little bit. So she'll look just like that. Now we can go ahead and put this line back on our purge bulb. And as you can see over there on the left side, it's got a short nipple and a long nipple. Short sucks, long blows. So since we're blowing it back into the tank, we want to put this line on the long nipple. Just like that. Now the short little piece that we cut, it's going to go to the short nipple because it sucks the fuel through the carburetor. So I can go ahead and attach this back to my primer bulb. Now we're going to do the same thing with our fuel filter line. There's a tiny little hole here that this goes in. I'm going to use this side that I cut at a slant. Get that down in there. Flip her on over. I'm gonna pull her out. Cut the section off that I cut at a slant. Get my tiny little needle nose pliers. I'm gonna stretch this end out. That way it's easier to get our fuel filter on. Telling you guys, you just give it a little stretch. It's much easier. Slides right on. So now that we've got that, this will lay in the bottom of the tank. And we can always cut a little shorter. This is going to come around the side, back into the carburetor. So it's going to suck the fuel through the fuel filter, up through the small line. Everybody always gets these backwards and puts the big line to the wrong side of the carburetor. So I just want to go over this real quick because everybody that brings these in after they've worked on them puts the fuel lines on backwards. I'm assuming it's just because you assume that the big line is where it sucks the fuel from, but it's not. The tiny line is connected to the fuel filter, comes around to the side, to the right side of your carburetor if you're standing behind the saw. Then it will have the short line from the carburetor on the left side to the purge bulb. It sucks the gas through the purge bulb and then returns it back into the tank. All right, are you ready to see what the carburetor looks like? All right, before I tear this apart, I do have something that I want to tell you about that I found out at the expo that I did not know, and for years, a lot of saws did not get repaired because I didn't know this. Probably about 20 to 30% of the Poulan chainsaws I would get in had been sitting for a very long time, and over the period of time them sitting, this little black plastic piece right here that's connected to this base, and this comes off of the carburetor, it would crack. Right here where it's pressed into this metal insert would crack. And sometimes it's just not even there. You'll go to repair your chainsaw, think everything's okay, and not even know that that piece is on your carburetor. What happens is whenever your throttle works, it works this extra little flapper right there. So if that's broke, the chainsaw is not going to work. So for years, when you go to look up this model and you look at the parts breakdown, it does not show that this comes separate. So I had no idea. I would tell customers, I'm sorry, you got to have a whole new another carburetor if that's broke. Usually I would have I would hold on to these whenever I had burned up chainsaws or something like that. But sometimes I wouldn't have one. So when I was at the expo, I talked to one of the managers there and found out that they do sell this piece. And so I took a picture of it. That way I could put it in this video and tell you what part number to be able to order. All right, so there are two ways this is going to go down. I'm either going to take it apart and it's going to be super nasty, or I'm going to take it apart and it's going to look perfect, because this saw looked like it was ran just a couple times and then never again. So those two screws, that'll come apart. We want to save these gaskets if we don't have to. It still looks pretty good. This is our metering diaphragm side here. And it is pooched out. It does need to be replaced, but everything looks super sweet and clean inside. That's sort of exciting. Oh yeah, these are definitely sucked in, but check it out. I am going to be using a Zama RB 129 rebuild kit. Go ahead and pop out this needle. And the screen looks really good. I'm not even going to replace the screen on this one. I'm going to go ahead and take my high and low jets out. Now you might want to start with turning them in first to see where they're at right now. So if we go 1 3/4, so that's our high. We got 1 3/4 on the high, and now we can go ahead and take it completely out. And then we're going to see what this low's at. We got 1 1/2 almost. So 1 1/2 and 1 3/4. I'm not saying that's where we're going to go back at. And you can see on this one, the low is longer than the high. So that's another way to know which is which when you go to put them back in. Now, don't forget, I keep these these toolkits at my Amazon store if you want to get one. It contains the 21 spline tool to do all this Poulan stuff, plus everything else you need to do whatever, Ryobis, home lights, steels. Definitely go ahead and get you one of these toolkits. They're cheap and they're a must-have. And everything's gotten a good spray, so I'm going to go ahead and just throw this thing back together. I am going to go ahead and turn the high out 1 full turn, 2 full turns, and the low, I'm going to come out 1 and almost 2. All right, y'all got faith in me? You think she's going to run? So when the carburetor goes back on, it goes this way. So I know that the line going to my fuel filter is on the right side here. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a little stretch. And throw it on here real quick. And this is going to be, this one I don't really have to stretch. It's going to go on the left side here on the carburetor. And you do want to make sure that if your lines were a little long that you don't pinch them as you press your carburetor back on. You can do that with the return. Ask me how I know. All right, just press it back on. It'll suction tight to this top area. We've got our choke lever. We're going to want to slide it back in there. And our throttle lever. Just pop it in the side, push it forward. And get it back in your trigger there. All right. Alright, let's see if she's going to prime. Hopefully this primer bulb doesn't break. Nope. She's priming. Oh, I do have a leaky gas cap. There's a vent hole right down the center there that it is leaking like a sieve out of. That's unfortunate. Well, I'm going to have to go on a search for a gas cap, but that ain't stopping me from seeing if she's going to run. Alright. Primed her good. Got her on choke. Give her my couple love pulls. That's a pop. Adjustment. I'm coming out. Another half a turn on the low. Another half on the high. Go in on the throttle just a smidge. Now, I don't care if you don't like Poulans or not. She'll cut some limbs. She is definitely not trash. Well, guys, that's the fix. Another one saved from the junkyard. That is the greenest thing you can do, is to fix old equipment. Don't let anybody lie to you. So thanks again for tuning in to Chickanic. If you find yourself coming back over and over again, think about hitting that subscribe button. It helps out the algorithm to make my videos shown to more people to save them time, money, and frustration in the future. And with Christmas coming close, don't forget, guys, if you're looking for a gift for that special someone, check out my Amazon store. There's lots of cool stuff there. And if you'd like to see me turn some more trash into treasure, check this video out right here.